Welcome back, listeners. Today, we're going deep, deep into the pineal gland.
Fascinating little structure.
It is this tiny pine cone-shaped gland tucked away in the center of our brains. We're going to look at it from every angle imaginable.
Oh, we've got a great mix of sources lined up, too.
Yeah, cutting-edge scientific articles, some spiritualist texts, the whole shebang. Ready to dive in.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a good one.
Okay, so first things first. Where exactly is this pineal gland hiding in our brain?
Well, if you could picture your brain right between the two hemispheres, almost like it's keeping them balanced.
Oh, I see. And size-wise, we talking like a walnut, a grape?
Much smaller, actually. About the size of a grain of rice, maybe even smaller. And here's the crazy part. It actually shrinks as we age.
Wait, really? So it's bigger when we're kids?
Yeah. For a long time, scientists thought because it shrinks, it must be like a leftover part,
Mm-hmm.
like our appendix, no real function.
Huh. So why'd they think that?
Well, partly because of these calcium deposits that build up around it. Some folks call it brain sand, which I know it sounds kind of freaky.
Brain sand? Yikes. What is that exactly?
It's basically these calcium phosphate crystals, and there's some really interesting research being done on it.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, this Dr. Sergio Felipe de Oliveira, he's a leading researcher in the field, and he thinks these deposits, they might not be random. He believes they're highly structured apatite crystals, potentially playing a role in the pineal gland's activity.
So maybe not just a sign of our brains getting dusty with age then.
Exactly. There could be more to it than we initially thought.
Okay, well that makes me feel a bit better about my own brain sand situation. But speaking of the pineal gland and what it does, we've got to talk about sleep, right?
Absolutely. Melatonin.
Melatonin, yes. So the pineal gland is basically our internal clock, right? Tells us when to sleep, when to wake up.
It's super sensitive to light. When it's dark out, boom, pineal gland starts churning out melatonin, making us sleepy. Daylight comes, melatonin goes down, we're up and at 'em.
Ugh. That explains why staring at my phone before bed is a terrible idea. I'm tricking my poor pineal gland.
You got it. It's like telling your brain it's still daytime. But beyond the sciencey stuff, the pineal gland has also been linked to some pretty mystical concepts like the third eye, right?
Oh, yeah, the seat of the soul, all that. Where'd these ideas come from anyway?
It's a long and fascinating history. You go back to ancient cultures, and they already associated the pineal gland with higher consciousness and spiritual awakening.
And then didn't Descartes have something to say about it too?
Oh, absolutely. Descartes, he was convinced the pineal gland was the connection point between the soul and the body. He thought its location in the brain, smack dab in the center, made it the perfect spot for the soul to perceive the world.
So, like, Descartes was the OG pineal gland fanboy.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But Spiritism, for example, takes a bit of a different approach.
Okay, so for those who might not be familiar, what's the Spiritist view on all this?
Well, unlike Descartes, Spiritism doesn't say the soul is located in any one specific organ. It's more like the soul's influence permeates the whole body.
Okay, that makes sense. But I know there's a lot of talk about the pineal gland's possible role in mediumship. Have scientists found anything to back that up?
This Dr. Dicio Iandoli Jr., his research is really interesting. He's looking into how the pineal gland might actually be involved in communicating with the spirit world.
Now, when we say communicating with the spirit world, are we talking like full-on conversations?
Think things like psychography and psychophony.
Ah, okay. So for our listeners who might not know those terms, psychography is writing that seems to come from spirits, and psychophony, that's hearing their voices, right?
That's it. And Dr. Iandoli Jr., he thinks the pineal gland, because of its connection to the thalamus, might be involved in translating information from the spiritual realm into something our brains can understand.
Wow, so it's like a spiritual decoder ring. That's wild. And now what about Dr. Oliveira's research? He's looking at the pineal gland too, but from a different angle, right?
Yeah, he's got this idea that the pineal gland isn't just sensitive to light, but to other more subtle energies as well. Maybe even like electromagnetic information from the spiritual realm.
Oh, wow. So like a spiritual antenna.
Exactly. Picking up signals from beyond the physical world. Pretty cool, huh?
That is super cool. And this brings us to another fascinating figure, André Louise, a spirit who's shared a lot about the afterlife through his writings.
Oh, you mean those mediumistic writings?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some really interesting things to say about the pineal gland, too.
Yeah, like in Missionaries of Light, his spiritual instructor, Alexandra, calls the pineal gland the gland of mental life. a place where a new sense resides.
Oh, that's a powerful one. And what's really fascinating is Andre Luiz's understanding of the pineal gland actually evolved after he transitioned to the spirit world.
Right, because during his life, he was a physician, so he had the scientific knowledge of his time. But as a spirit, he gained this whole new perspective.
It's like he got a backstage pass to how things really work.
Exactly. And speaking of deeper perspectives, there's another quote from Alexandra that I always found so intriguing. He says, "It is in the pineal gland that the new sense of man resides. However, in the vast majority of them, the divine power sleeps embryonically." What do you think he meant by that?
Well, that's a question that has sparked a lot of discussion and interpretation.
Yeah, for sure. But that's a conversation we'll have to continue after a quick break. Don't go anywhere. So that quote from Alexandra. He says the pineal gland is where this new sense resides. But for most people, it's like this dormant power just waiting to be awakened.
It's a powerful idea, isn't it?
It really is. So what do you think? What is this new sense he's talking about?
Well, some people think he's talking about a sixth sense, like a direct line to the spiritual world, something beyond our five physical senses.
I could see that.
Others interpret it as a potential for heightened awareness, expanded consciousness.
So not a completely new sense, but more like an evolution of what we already have, a way to experience reality on a deeper level.
Exactly. Like, think about those moments of intuition we all have, those sudden insights, that feeling of knowing something without being able to explain how.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what Alexander is getting at. This new sense is about tapping into a deeper well of knowledge and understanding, something that's already within us.
Wow, that's a pretty cool thought. Makes you wonder if we could all develop this new sense with the right kind of training or practice.
Well, that's where Spiritism emphasizes moral development and self-improvement. Remember, Alexander also called the pineal gland this powerful power plant.
Right.
But he warns against misusing this power, getting caught up in negativity and lower desires. True spiritual progress, he says, is about harnessing this energy for good, cultivating virtue, serving others.
So it's not about seeking superpowers or forcing these spiritual experiences, but about working on ourselves, becoming better people, and letting those insights emerge naturally.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination. A process of growth, self-discovery, connecting with our spiritual nature.
Makes sense. So it seems like the pineal gland is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle when it comes to understanding our spiritual potential.
Absolutely. But it's a fascinating piece, that's for sure.
It really is. Earlier, we talked about the pineal gland's role in mediumship. What else did Andre Luiz reveal about how this tiny gland works in that context?
Well, he describes actually witnessing the pineal gland in action during mediumistic communication. He talks about seeing it emit these bluish rays of light, almost like a transmitter.
Whoa!
Yeah, like it's facilitating the exchange of information between the spirits and the medium. A bridge connecting thoughts and ideas across dimensions.
Wow, that's incredible. Makes you wonder about the mechanics of it all. If the pineal gland is so important for mediumship, does that mean anyone could potentially be a medium?
That's a question that has intrigued a lot of people, both researchers and spiritualists.
For sure.
Spiritism acknowledges that everyone has some level of mediumistic sensitivity, but the ability to consciously channel communication from the spirit world, well, that's a bit more complex.
So it's not as simple as having a strong pineal gland.
Nope, not like flipping a switch.
Yeah.
It involves a bunch of factors, like inevitable predisposition, moral development, spiritual effort.
I see. So you can't just force it.
Right. It's about cultivating the right conditions, both internally and externally, for mediumship to develop. Think of it like a garden. You need fertile soil, sunlight, water for plants to flourish.
Ah, that's a great analogy.
Similarly, mediumship can blossom when we nourish our spiritual growth, refine our sensitivities, and align ourselves with higher vibrations.
So it's not about manipulating the pineal gland directly, but about creating a nurturing environment for our spiritual growth, allowing our natural sensitivities to unfold.
Exactly. It's about the bigger picture.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think this tiny little pine cone-shaped thing in our brain could hold so much potential.
It really is. And this whole exploration of the pineal gland, it reminds us that there's so much more to us than meets the eye.
Yeah.
It highlights this interconnectedness between our physical and spiritual selves.
Absolutely.
And while science and spirituality might approach it from different angles, they both point towards this vastness of human consciousness, these boundless possibilities within each of us.
Well said. It seems like the more we learn about the pineal gland, the more questions we have. But that's part of the fun, right?
Of course.
We're on this continuous journey of discovery, exploring the mysteries of our own existence.
Exactly. And as we learn and grow, we uncover new layers, both within ourselves and in the universe around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the amazing world of the pineal gland. We hope you learned a thing or two and maybe even rediscovered a sense of wonder about the incredible potential we all have within.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise, to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop learning. Until next time.